Hello, and welcome back to Fail to Win. As we are kicking off a brand new year, I wanted to bring back one of the most powerful episodes I've ever recorded because what I'm sharing with you today, is a process I personally use every single year to reset, refocus, and decide what actually matters to me. And so even though this episode was originally recorded last year, I wanted to bring the exercise back because it is completely timeless. And honestly, there was no point in me recording it again because I do the same thing every single year. The exercise will walk you through how to set goals across all areas of your life, not just business, but also health, relationships, finances, and the things that often get pushed to the side. So if you've ever felt like you're busy but not focused, or motivated but then it drops again and you get pulled in too many directions, this episode will help you slow down before the actual start of the new year, check in with yourself, and set goals that actually stick. So whether this is your first time listening in or you're revisiting this as a yearly ritual, grab your notebook, get ready to print out the focus wheel, give yourself a bit of space and grab a tea or something, and let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to Fail to Win, a show where we love to make mistakes and learn from them so you can turn your passion into profits and live life on your own terms. I'm Amy van der Putten from FastForwardAmy, your host and coach, and I'll bring you a new episode with simple strategies every Tuesday. The perfect time to start thinking about our New Year's resolutions. And I have so many people in my environment who are very skeptical about New Year's resolutions, and they say they don't work and so many people let go of them. But me personally, I don't really care if it's New Year's resolutions or first of the month resolutions or goal setting or whatever, or motivational quotes. I love reflecting on life, reflecting on business, finances, and setting new goals for myself. And I'm guessing if you're here listening to the Fail to Win podcast, you're kind of the same. So I say, bugger off to all of the people who hate New Year's resolutions. Today, we're going to see how I am personally setting goals for the new year, not just business-wise, but also personally, health goals, whatever. I'm just going to give you a little inside peek into my process. And I'm also going to gift you the file I created for you that I use to set all of those goals in the different areas of my life for the upcoming year. And you can redo this exercise as many times as you want, but I'm just going to walk you through it, okay? So a few months ago, I saw this Jake Paul documentary. Actually a month ago. I'm going to be honest. It was a month ago, the day before the Mike Tyson fight. Now, you might not know who Jake Paul is. You might not like him. If you do know who he is, you might love him. I don't really care what you think of him. I personally was really inspired by watching the documentary about him. It's called Untold on Netflix. I have this weird thing. I don't really love watching TV anymore. I notice that it doesn't really relax me when I watch a show or something. I love reading more. I just notice I sleep better and everything. But my boyfriend and I, we really love all of these documentary style shows about famous people or athletes. So we've been watching Breakpoint, we watch Drive to Survive, we watched some documentaries about people like Simone Biles, now Jake Paul. And I tell my friends jokingly, I can look at a bottle of water and get inspired, but put me in front of a documentary like that, and I know it's framed and all of it, but it just inspires me so much. And in the documentary, you see him walking out of the shower in his $20 million mansion. And he started with nothing, by the way. He created all of that himself. He grew a lot online, then he got canceled, then he grew a lot in something else. It's just inspiring how he never, he's always just gotten back up after he fell down. And I think that's a trait many successful people share, so I get inspired by it. So he walks out of the shower and he sees his goals in front of him. And he looks at his goals every single day. I hear Grant Cardone talk about how he sets his goals every single morning. And so I often notice that although I've accomplished quite a lot of things I'm really proud of in my life, I do think sometimes I lose track of my goals. And the moment I lose track of them, I don't hit them. So a couple of weeks ago, I was feeling a little bit frustrated about my health journey. I wasn't really making the progress I wanted. I was getting stronger, but my pants didn't fit me anymore, I'm going to be honest. If you've followed along on my health journey, you've seen me get a lot healthier over these past couple of years. I really worked on my hormones, balance, self-care, and all of that. And I noticed that I hadn't been taking good enough care of myself. Nothing very, very bad, but just it just started slipping, I was sleeping a little bit less. and I was a little bit more stressed, and my cortisol went up, and I was chugging coffee like it was my day job, and just tiny typical stuff. You might recognize that. I was traveling a lot, and some of my routines fell away, and all of a sudden I started feeling like crap. I was like, shit, this is not me. So I was talking about it to my personal trainer, and she said like, okay, so what's changed? And I was like, well, this and that. And I'm like, yeah, and mostly I just don't have any focus anymore. Because in my gym, I used to have these really big papers on the wall, like these whiteboard papers that you like, these huge post-its just on my walls with my goals, with my weeks, where I would be tracking my goals, my habits, all of it. And I kind of stopped doing them when I hit a previous target or when a quarter ended. I took all of them off of the windows and I didn't put any new ones up. And I was like, the main thing I'm missing is focus. Like my Aura Ring was broken, the battery, like there was a problem with it. So it took me a while to get a new one. So I didn't check my sleep anymore. And then, my steps went down because I was sitting at my desk anymore and I didn't check my steps anymore. And I'm not this inherently sporty person. I always joke and tell my friends, I'm the least sporty person you'll ever meet. I work out 4 days a week, try to get my steps in and my sleep and all of that. But not because I want to, but kind of just because I know it's good for me, but it does not come naturally to me. So when my tracking of those things fell away, I started noticing that some of my habits started slipping. So we talked about it, and it wasn't a lot. It was, I ended up checking the stats. It was 30 minutes less sleep on average. But on average, that's 3.5 hours less a week. It was 2,000 steps less a day, but that's 14,000 steps a week. And some more stuff like that, drinking maybe like a bit more coffee in the day, and I started skipping breakfast, so the coffee just like spiked my cortisol because I drank it on an empty stomach, something that I hadn't been doing for a while, and it just kind of like slipped in. So we sat down and I was like, I'm gonna have to reset my goals. So literally that same evening I sat down, I made myself this calendar and this one page, and I was like, I'm gonna get back on top of this. And that's when I realized like, I'm the type of person who really needs this, and the greats in the world. And, everyone has a different definition of success. Your definition of success is not mine. For me, I really care about my family, my friends, my health is important. I also like to be wealthy financially. So I have this definition of success, and I also like to keep growing in different areas of my life. So I sat down and I redefined my goals, and just making that click in my brain of being like, Amy, you get to want more for yourself. You get to go after these goals. I don't know. It gave me so much energy and motivation. So what I'm going to do today with you is I'm going to walk you through the steps I take to set goals in 8 different areas of my life. I made a printable for you to plan out, or to print out actually, so you can do the exercise. So the first part of the exercise is the focus wheel, where you check in with how you are currently feeling about different areas in your life. Because I've identified 8 areas. I'll leave some space for you to add in an extra area if you think of something else. And it might be so that you are feeling really happy with some areas and you're like, oh, these are great. And then there might be other areas that you feel really, really shitty about. You're like, oh, these need some extra TLC. So the first part of exercise is kind of checking in with the areas and how you feel about them. And you're going to score them 1 to 10. So if you go to fastforwardamy.com/focus wheel, or you just DM me that word on Instagram, focus wheel, all one word, I'll send over the printable. If you don't do it, it's going to be difficult to follow along, but I imagine you're driving or cooking or whatever, and you just want me to continue talking. So picture a really big circle, like a pie chart, and each piece of the pie represents, something in your life, like your health or your finances or your house or your partner, and you score it 1 to 10. Like, how happy are you with your relationship currently? And maybe you score it a 10. Maybe your partner scores it a 5. You need to have a chat about that. Actually, my partner and I had that last year. We did the exercise together, and he scored our relationship probably like a 10, and I was like at an 8. And I was like, yeah, I'd like to have some more conscious date nights, actually. And this was something, obviously we're very much in love and happy and all of that. But I do feel like sometimes when we are at home, it's a lot of work and no play, because we just get not necessarily pulled into work, but just like to-dos, the dishwasher and this and that. And I was like, I'd really love to have a weekly date night. And then he realized that that was important to me because he didn't like feel it the same way. So that helped. So the first thing is you're just going to identify without judgment, how do you feel about these different areas? So the areas I always do this for is my health, my finances, my house, or you could say your living environment, partner, family and friends. You could split that up if you wanted to. For me, that means just like social. Then I have play and leisure. I don't know how to pronounce that. Just like general play. That is something I struggle with a lot as like someone who's so like focused on business and growing and traveling and everything. Sometimes I forget to insert enough play and like bodily play into my life. And I don't mean sex by that. Could be that. I mean, like, I've been wanting to go to tennis or padel for a really long time, and we scheduled it in once, and then we had to cancel it because my boyfriend got sick, and then we never did it. And I want to do a sport for the sake of the sport, not because I have to or something. Just play games. Then you have career, and you can have community, and you can add anything you want. Basically, you can adapt this exercise as you see fit. So you would color in the different pieces of the pie. Is that how we say a pie chart? And in the middle, it's 1, and all the way at the end, it's 10. 10 out of 10, or like a full pie piece would mean you're very, very satisfied with all of it. And notice that as entrepreneurs, it's really interesting. You could do this for your business as well. You know what? I'll add an empty piece of, like an empty wheel as well. So you can do this exercise for your business or for anything else if you wanted to. Because as business owners, we're really like, the cash flow, the revenue, the marketing, the followers. Blah. But here, notice how finances is there, but it's separated from your career, and your career might mean your business, but it could mean other stuff as well. I think often we are so focused on business and growing and all of that, that we forget that that's not what life is about. We're not here to just work. Of course, you can work a lot if you love it a lot, but I know that I do the work I do because of the community also I want to build. Community is a really big one for me. My mission is to impact people, to help them live life on their terms, which is why this exercise is so important to me. Because maybe you care a lot about your partner, or maybe you don't have a partner currently and you're like, you know what? I would like a partner. Maybe you are writing, like you're filling in that little piece of your pie and it's at a 1. And maybe you see everything in your life being super high and you're like, well, I'm not satisfied with that. Okay, let's make that a project this year. Let's go out more. Let's start dating more. Let's do all of those things. It's not going to happen by accident. I truly believe that everything we want in life, we can get. But we do need to focus on it, because where focus goes, energy flows. Where focus goes, energy flows. So that's why we need to make this drawing first, so you can focus on where there's an energy leak. Now we're going to take that we're going to set goals for it. So that's actually the second step, and this is how I do it. So I'll take my relationship as an example. I don't know if Jonathan is going to love this or hate this, that I talk about all of this stuff. You know what? He never listens to my podcast. So do we care? I'm joking. I'm actually not joking. He never listens to my podcast, but I don't mind. He's like, but I get it live. This is also my work. I don't listen to his work, or I don't watch him work. So I guess it's fine. No? Yeah? What do you think? Okay, but let's take partner. What you're going to do next is you're going to take out the next piece of paper in your printable. Again, if you want to grab it and print it out, you can also look at it digitally, of course, but I like doing it, on a piece of paper. You could also draw it on a whiteboard or whatever if you wanted that. So just click the link in the description to go and grab it. What you're going to do is you're going to write down the topics of these different areas. I'll leave those empty for the titles, because maybe you use the second page where you change some words, but I do recommend you follow my pattern of the areas. And you are going to write down 3 goals for each area. You don't have to do it for each area if you don't have any goals for anything, or you don't want to improve anything. You could even just write in there what you're already doing. But you have this piece of paper with all of the areas in your personal and business life. And so, for example, health. And you only get 3 bullets from me. This could be targets or process-based goals. So this could be, let's say I want to be able to deadlift 100 kilos, could be a target. That could be one of the 3 bullets, health-wise. Or it could be a habit, basically being, I want to do strength training 4 times a week. I usually already kind of know what my targets are, and then I sometimes lack consistency in habits. So for me, what works really, really well is splitting it up between outcome-based goals and process-based goals. So maybe I'll write down target 1, deadlift 100 kilos. Because if I'm deadlifting 100 kilos, for me, that means a lot of things. I must be in really good shape to deadlift 100 kilos. And then target 2 could be something I struggle with to do consistently, namely get enough sleep in, because my boyfriend, he's an evening person, I'm a morning person, and, we kind of compromise, but then we both end up not doing necessarily exactly the way we should be doing it if we would listen to our body. This sounds terrible. It's not that bad. It's just like he likes to go to bed a couple of hours later than I do, and I like to wake up early. But then, he goes to bed a little bit earlier. I go to bed a bit later. Then he wakes up a little bit earlier. But it's not perfect, but it works. But so when I'm focused on getting 8 hours of sleep, in actual sleep, not just lying in bed, that helps me to go to bed on time. So, for example, I could set a target that means 8 hours of sleep on average, which is pretty high to hit on average. Or it could be go to bed by 10 p.m., lights out by 10 p.m., which is something I never hit. So you can choose, like outcome and process, there's always a different layer. We could say that deadlifting 100 kilos could be an end goal. A piece of the process that goes before that is getting enough sleep in, and a piece of the process that goes in before that is going to bed on time. You don't have to put all of them in there. It could also be eating vegetables at every meal, whatever. Pick 3. And it kind of also depends on where you are in your journey. If you're going to be putting in more process-based or outcome-based goals. I don't know if I'm making sense, but the way this was for me, for example, is right now I have a couple of health goals. Sleep, what I was just telling you. Strength, because I've noticed that when I'm traveling, I skip my sessions. So when I'm at home, I have my personal trainer, I get the 4 sessions in. But when I'm traveling, I tend to just ignore it, which is not perfect. So I do have to make a conscious effort to get the 4 sessions in. And then my third one, for example, is steps, 10K steps a day. Not because of the 10,000. I know a lot of people have told me it's bullshit that you need 10K steps. I'm not saying you need it. I'm saying for me, when I get 10,000 steps in, it usually means I took a break in the middle of the day to go for a walk. It means I went outside. It means my body is feeling better. So I've just identified that that's like a big one for me, because it also means I wasn't glued to my desk all day, and it means I went outside and all of that stuff. But what used to be one of my health targets was getting my supplements in. But I've noticed that my supplements have become a non-negotiable habit, so I don't need it in my list anymore, because I used to need my supplements in order to sleep better. But now I've noticed that I actually already know and do what I need to do to get good sleep in. Now it's just simply going to bed on time. So for being honest, maybe if I'm doing this exercise with you, I actually should just put going to sleep earlier as a goal. I think that would actually be a better one. God damn it, why is this exercise such a good one? So those could be health targets. 10K steps a day, 4 workouts a week, go to bed by 10, lights out by 10. Fuck me. And then for my relationship, one of our things was, for example, a weekly date night. And we take week, who organizes it. And for me, it's really important that it happens during the week. We have a very big social life. We're big on family and friends and all of that. And I've just noticed that when we actually go to a restaurant and we actually sit down and there's no dishwasher beeping or my cat jumping on the table or someone ringing the doorbell, stuff like that, and we just sit down, have dinner for 2 or 3 hours together, and we just can't get distracted by anything else, it just fosters a deeper connection. So for me, that's important in our relationship. One of the things I wrote down earlier this year that we didn't do is the active sport. I want to do an active sport once a week. And last year, I was also in the middle of the winter. This is something I'm going to tell you, and I guess this confession is going to be one. Am I going to tell you? Yeah, I'll tell you. I don't know who's listening. But one of the things I wrote down last year, I was in a bit of a stressful phase in my life, in my business. I was revamping my business and we were stressed, and I wrote down more sex. Obviously, it would be better to write down how much and everything if you're setting SMART goals. But for us, it was more like prioritizing that loving time more. Definitely hope Jonathan doesn't listen to this episode. That's not weird though, right? That I share that. I think many people go through that phase. Those are goals I set for my relationship. I don't think they're really weird. I just think it just pays off sitting down to realize what's important. So for me, the 6 piece is, I know that when I'm stressed out and Jonathan is stressed out, well, there's less of that. There's less romance. So I know it's also a sign of, for example, my health and my mental health and how my career is getting organized. So it all ties in together. I guess with this confession, I will see who listens to the podcast. Let me know if you heard me talk about this and maybe send me a confession back. Your career could be, you want to write a book, or you finally want to sell a digital product, or you want to start up something. It could be whatever you want it to be. Just go through all of these and just remember, try to mix up outcome-based targets like with process-based targets. And what I mean by that, again, is it could be the action of doing something. The action of doing something, which is process-based, could be doing my 4 workouts a week. Outcome-based would be being able to deadlift 100 kilos at a certain point. It's kind of like people set weight targets for themselves, but you really can't control what the scale says if that's something you do. You really can't control it. You can only control what you're doing. And if you only put outcome-based targets for yourself for the new year, then, when you're not hitting your targets, you're going to get really disappointed. Whereas if you have these process-based targets that you can, cross off every week or every day because these are habits that you did, it's going to make it much more tangible, and it's going to feel like more wins, and you're going to get a lot more dopamine from your habits. And one more thing I wanted to talk about is, for example, with my house, for example, I felt really, really overwhelmed by decorating my house because it's huge, and I was in a relationship, then I wasn't, then I was in a new relationship, and the styles kept changing, and I was starting to feel so overwhelmed. I was like, oh my God, decorating the entire house, and it's so expensive, and I don't know anything about it. And I was just like, you know what? I want to redo the bathroom. Okay, then I want to redo the bedroom. I don't have to do everything at once. This sheet for you, it means you don't have to do everything at once. And maybe you have a bunch of goals and wishes for yourself that you want to write down, and you're going to look at it and you're like, holy shit, when am I going to do that this year? It doesn't matter. It doesn't even have to be this year, this quarter, whatever. Just a simple act of sitting down with yourself without being on your phone. Obviously, do snap a picture and tag me. But just doing this, gifting yourself that me time, allowing yourself to feel, what am I secretly wishing for? What am I hoping for that isn't happening? It's going to give you permission to go after your dreams. And yeah, it's not always going to work out, but that's also why the podcast is called Fail to Win. Last year I set another intention that was like, I'm going to perfect my French. My French got better, but I didn't perfect it. But I've been thinking about it for a long time. And now today I'm finally going to book in like this language camp where I'm going to be talking French for an entire week. So it took me a while to get to it. And it's okay if it takes you a while, but just never give up on your dreams. Never stop wishing things for yourself. Time will pass anyways. Might as well make it count. And remember, you can go and grab my focus wheel by DMing me or messaging me the word focus wheel, all one word, or go to the link in the description. I hope you use this exercise to set some really fucking amazing targets for yourself for the upcoming year. Sorry for all of the swearing. And I wish you the very, very happiest of New Year's. And by the way, next week is the 5-year anniversary of this podcast. So let's make it count, okay? Let's make it a really great year together. And I wish you all the best. Happy New Year's.